Hello, I'm crime fiction writer Brenda Chapman, and today I'm chatting with Norm Boucher, a Manotick author, and this is the 11th in the series of interviews introducing some of the fine Crime Writers of Canada authors from Ottawa and Eastern Ontario. Now, Norm Boucher's nonfiction memoir is titled Horseplay, My Time Undercover on the Granville Strip, and it was released in November 2020. Hi, Norm.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's great to chat with you. I'm really interested to hear more about your time in the RCMP and the book, which sounds fascinating. Now, your bio says that at age 19, you joined the RCMP and began a long and rewarding career, mainly in the area of drugs and organized crime. And in 1983, you went undercover to infiltrate Vancouver's heroin scene, and your book Horseplay came from this experience. Now, when did the idea for penning a book grip you, and had writing been part of your life before this memoir?
Yeah, I've always been writing. It's always been part of my life. At least since high school, I think I read Grapes of Wrath by Steinbeck, and loved the book, but it made me think of writing. It just made me think of writing, and I've been writing ever since, studying it, learning about authors and all that. And anyway, but it's been a side of me throughout, no matter where I was, which is nice about writing. You take it wherever you are, and
That's right.
And you
can develop it at your own speed.
Yeah,
but
yes, totally. And you know, I don't know. I guess like most writers, you think sometimes, you think that there might be a book somewhere in you, and you wonder, and it scares you. But I have to tell you that when I finished that undercover operation, and after dealing with those characters in that period, and everything that happened, I knew then that I would write that story someday. But
there was a book in it.
Yeah, there was, and I wasn't ready to take it on right away. I had to determine, what the story meant to me, and all that, and also work on my writing some more before I could feel confident enough to tackle it. So it took a few years after that before I got started.
Yeah. So why the title Horseplay?
Well, it's a play on word. Heroin was horse it's been used for a long time as a slang word for heroin, and it was used during those days. It was used before that. It's even used in Spain. I've seen lately in Spanish, el caballo. So it's a common name for heroin, and a street name, I guess I should say. And also the play on word with the RCMP on the street. We're called horsemen sometimes, and I've been accused of being one when I was undercover at times. So, so that there's a play on that as well. But I think more than everything, the thing I like the most about the title, and why it really hooked me was is the game that people played, down in that area where I was. You had the police all under one roof: the police, the criminals, the heroin users, and they every day, like you had a game that was played, between the heroin users trying to get enough to fix, and the people selling it, and then the police watching all the time. So I think it wrapped it up nicely.
So for those not familiar with Vancouver, what is the Granville Strip, and describe what it was like in 1983?
Well, in 1983, I think it was an important period, 1983. Like the Granville Strip is always known as the entertainment district. It's but it's, along with that came the struggles with the drugs, the violence at night. So it was a thorn on the city's side of it, because the city was preparing for 1986 Expo, for the Expo, and they wanted to take a look in there and see what it was like. But at that time. The Granville Strip was also known for the place to go if you wanted to buy heroin. Specifically, the Blackstone Hotel was. And the thing about the Granville Street, it's the main street to get into Vancouver downtown from the south. So if you come from the United States, for example, you'd have to drive on that street. It's a nice big street. And then we arrived close to downtown. It's all these turn of century hotels that were built, for welcoming visitors in those days. In 3 years in the 70s and all this have turned into a bit of, like I guess you could say flop houses, some of them. And the Blackstone was one of them, which is where most of the book is set. And as I said, I mean, you have Yellowtown that's next door. That's very trendy right now. And in those days, it was a warehouse district, and everything changed after 1986 and the 90s. But that's the scene at the time.
So the Blackstone Hotel is where you went undercover?
Yes, pretty well. Yeah, that's well. I mean, we were looking at the Granville Strip as a whole, like, because you could find heroin in many of the places, but the Blackstone was the place to go. It was the main area for heroin.
How did you go about being trusted by the addicts and the criminal world for this undercover?
Well, on the practical side, learning everything they did was the key. It's funny how people who would do the same thing every day, like people who are scoring their heroin every day. It's part of being an addict. But how they packaged it, how they carried it. They carried heroin in their mouths, how they sold it. The reason I carried in their mouth is so they could swallow before the police could get to them. I had to learn all that, the practical side of it. I had to learn how to fix heroin as well, and I practiced that as well. So these are the things, make sure that I had tracks in my arms, this kind of stuff. So that's the practical side of it. But I think anybody can be a user of heroin. Anybody can be an addict. I mean, it happens to everybody of all sorts, of all walks of life. So the key really was for me to have a character that was well designed. It's a bit like writing a book, I guess. You design your character, and then the key is to stay true to it, because if you're not true to your character, people can pick things that are not right. So that was the main thing for me, was to have in my mind who I wanted to be. I'm also a good mimic, so that helped a lot.
That helps. Normally I ask authors to describe their protagonist, their main character, but in this case it's you. So I think it's safe to say that a lot of us would not have would be interested in infiltrating the criminal world. It's not everyone's cup of tea. So if you step back and look at yourself through an objective lens, what character traits do you possess that helped you in your undercover career, in your RCMP?
I joined the RCMP, I mean, because I wanted to deal with people. I like to deal with people. I want to be able to help and everything. And also, I want to take on crime, right? You're a young police officer. You want to go where the crime is. You want to go, that's what your job is. And I couldn't find a better place to go than the Blackstone in those years. It was crime. There was a lot of violence. People met there, and and what I learned throughout, though, again going back to people, is that the circumstances brought a lot of crime and violence, but addiction brought everybody from all walks of life who struggle with their addiction, and every day had to find a way to earn enough money for their fix, and it brought together people that probably should not be together and probably should never meet, really, and that was an eye-opener for me as well. That part was an eye-opener, and it changed my view on drugs and how I see things as well. So
yeah. So why do you think it's important for people to read about what was going on in the 80s on the Granville Strip?
Well, I think things sound so complicated now, and those were simpler times, before the internet, before cell phones. People had to know each other to buy their heroin, connect, and get introduced to it and all that. And I think it might not hurt to look back in those days and see, take a step back and see how money has to do with a lot of it. The crime, when I came in, I thought that the crime was linked to the drug. Heroin was the hard drug, and I learned throughout that it's not that. It's really about the money. And so if we look back at it, and we can separate the money from it, and if we can look at the cost of addiction as opposed to, we look at safe injection sites and needle exchange, their harm reduction and supply reduction helps as well, but on the police side and all that. But at the end, we're looking at addiction. We're looking at addiction prevention, and also the Blackstone was all alcohol and drugs. And there's no difference. The more I spent time in there, the more I found that there's no difference between different substances people use. It's all about acceptance of drugs and we as a society push everything in a small corner and pretend that it has nothing to do with us. But if we look at our society, we accept drugs, we accept alcohol, so we just need to move towards where we want to spend the right amount of money and spend the time on prevention and treatment and all these things. I think this, and also as a society, as an attitude, as a society in terms of how we deal with it.
Maybe having more compassion.
Yes, and I think that's, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I really wanted to bring out, like the heroin addict is so stereotyped now because of all these pictures in back alleys, but I used to say, don't tell a heroin addict to get a job, because that heroin addict has a job, and it's probably the hardest job ever, of everyone. They have to work every hard. So yeah, I want to bring the human side of that aspect and the struggle and the strength of it too.
So do you have any other writing projects in the works?
Not right now. I've been so long on, actually I do some, but nothing concrete enough to really, for me to speak about it. But I've been absorbed so much by Horseplay over the years that now I have kind of changed my mind a bit and try to look at what's up ahead and the different avenues, and I haven't really decided yet. So
have you considered writing fiction instead of nonfiction?
Yes, I'm thinking about it. I like the idea of having the freedom to of fiction, but by the same token, you don't have a story to start with, so you have to create it, so that it's got its own challenges, of course. But I like the idea. I like to develop characters and all that.
Book cover there to show us?
Yes, right here. There he goes. Yeah, nice. Yeah, they did a good job with the cover. I really liked it.
Yeah, it's great. I'm going to close with a few snapper questions just to find out a little bit more about the real Norm Boucher. So,
all right.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up on the west end of Montreal in De La Salle.
And you've recently moved to the lovely town of Manotick. What brought you to this end of the country, or this town?
Well, my work brought me to Ottawa, but Manotick itself, we had some friends who lived in Manotick, and we used to come and visit and loved the place. So we ended up, as soon as we had the chance.
Yeah, it's a beautiful little town. Just
that's beautiful.
Southwest of Ottawa, I guess, sort of.
Yes, it's on the Rideau River, a beautiful river, really.
Yeah,
and it's a nice little village.
What did you enjoy most about your work in the RCMP?
Again, I think people and the variety of places and people that I've met over the years. I was fortunate enough to work overseas as well as all across the country. I met some terrific people, and in all sorts of situations. Unfortunately, we end up working a lot when times are bad for people. But we met a lot of good people, did some great things, and inspiring people. So I think that's what I like the most, and a great opportunity to help as well. So
yeah. Do you have any other hobbies or interests?
Yeah, I like to run and ride my bike, and we're on the waters. We like to go boating and go in the river quite a bit. So these are the things. I play golf too. I enjoy golf.
Like my husband.
Oh
yeah. What's the last book you read or are reading?
Well, I finished Here the Dark by David Bergen, and I'm currently reading Taken by the Muse by Anne Wheeler.
So you read a lot, I'm gathering. Most writers read a lot.
Yeah, no, yes, I love writing. I love reading. Yes.
Yeah. What is your idea of a perfect day?
Well, let's say something like, I don't know, maybe 3 hours of writing and 2 hours of reading, a nice dinner with my wife, a bike ride, with my wife, and then a nice dinner, and maybe ending it all with a great movie.
Sounds good. And what's something people might be surprised to learn about you?
Well, I'm a closet harmonica player. So I play blues harmonica, but only on my own.
Never in public.
No, never, no. And I like it just for my own fun. It just makes me discover music in a different way, I guess. But I don't have the talent, I'm afraid, to go and get out there.
So Norm, where could people go to find out more about you and where to buy your book? And
Well, newspress.com is our publisher and a great publisher, and you can access the book through there. I also have a website called the Horseplay thebook.com, and that's my website, so people can again learn about me, and if they want a signed copy too, they could order one. I've had some great support from from the bookstores. It's been such a difficult area for them, difficult times for them. Chapters and independent bookstores as well, such as Novel Idea in Kingston and Perfect Book in Ottawa. Very, very supportive, as well as here in Manotick as well. Rebel Pedals, a local store here in Manotick, is supporting the book as well, and same with Office Pro. So there's quite a few places.
Great, and we'll put your website address in the description below this video, so people can.
Great, well, thank you.
And it's been great speaking with you and great meeting you today. And
same here.
Yeah.
Well,
really.
thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Bye now.
Thank you.